You know that feeling when you try to sit down for a moment of silence or prayer,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of any sense of peace, your brain just starts listing everything you forgot to buy at the grocery store?
Oh, absolutely. It's like there's a wall of static. It's the universal struggle, really.
It is.
We live in a world that is just designed to keep us distracted, but we still crave that connection.
Well, today we're looking at a solution proposed in the Rhapsody of Reality's daily devotional by Pastor Chris, specifically the entry for February 19th.
Yeah, it's titled Continual Fellowship with the Spirit, and it tackles this distraction head on.
It frames the problem as a kind of battle, really, between two specific mindsets, being carnally minded versus spiritually minded.
And it anchors that whole conflict in Romans 8.6. The stakes are set pretty high right away. It says, to be carnally minded is death.
Right. But to be spiritually minded is life and peace.
But the text defines it in a much more subtle way. It's not necessarily about living some wild, sinful life.
Okay.
It's more about your operating system. It describes it as living from the mind or being driven by earthly consciousness.
So your senses, your bills, the news cycle.
Exactly. The things you can touch and see. And the argument here is that if your entire reality is defined only by the physical world, you're cut off from that spiritual vitality. You're disconnected.
That makes more sense. It connects that feeling of death or maybe just burnout to the anxiety of constant sensory overload.
So the antidote is this spiritual mindedness, which the text defines as perpetual fellowship with the Holy Spirit.
But fellowship is another one of those words that can feel a little bit vague.
It can, but the author breaks it down with this fascinating descriptor from 1 Corinthians 1.9.
What's that?
It defines fellowship as communication, communion, and a drinking together.
Drinking together. I love that image.
Me too.
It just completely shifts the vibe, doesn't it? Drinking together isn't efficient. It implies lingering.
Exactly. You don't sit down for coffee with a friend just to exchange data and leave. You do it to share a moment.
You share an experience.
And that's the core distinction. It's intimacy over efficiency. The text instructs you to see the Holy Spirit not as some vague force, but as a person, a companion you walk with.
If you view the Spirit as a force, you use it. If you view the Spirit as a person, you talk to him.
There it is.
And this brings us to the part of that really, it called me out. The text critiques how most of us approach that conversation.
The transactional prayer habit, the emergency court approach.
Yes. It warns against only praying when you need something.
Well, think about it in human terms. If you had a friend who only called when their car broke down or they needed $20.
You wouldn't call that fellowship.
No, you call it being used.
We treat God like a cosmic vending machine. Insert request, dispense blessing.
But the devotional argues for an ongoing communion of love. It's supposed to be a continuous open line, not a series of help desk tickets.
Which is where the text tries to dismantle this idea that God is silent. I think a lot of people feel like prayer is a monologue because they don't think God talks back.
Right, but the author lays out this whole historical track record to argue that God is, by nature, a talker, a communicator.
He really does list everyone, doesn't he? Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, the prophets.
The logic is pretty sound. If God spoke creation into existence and then spent thousands of years talking to shepherds and kings, it would be weird for him to suddenly go mute.
He didn't stop.
That's the claim. He is still talking today through his word and through the Spirit. So if we aren't hearing it, the issue isn't his silence, it's our tuning.
The actionable advice it gives is to learn to listen and talk back.
Talk back. I like that phrasing. It suggests a familiarity that I think many people are afraid of. It makes the Holy Spirit less like a distant ghost and more like a partner in the room.
That's the goal of perpetual fellowship, isn't it? Moving from just visiting God in a quiet time to actually walking with God through the noise of the grocery store.
It's the difference between a weekly meeting and a constant text thread.
It just removes the partition between sacred time and normal time.
And that resolves the conflict we started with. You don't have to shut off your brain to find peace. You just have to switch who you're discussing the to-do list with.
So we're really left with a pretty challenging pivot here.
It's a shift from a transaction to a real relationship.
Away from the stress of earthly consciousness and toward the drinking together of spiritual communion. So here is the thought I want to leave you with. If the text is right, and God has been speaking from Genesis all the way through to today, just look at your last few prayers. Were you filing a complaint with management, or were you sitting down for a drink with a friend?
That's the question.
Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.
We trust you were blessed by this episode. To gain unlimited access to Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris, please download the Rhapsody app using the link myapp.rhapsodyofrealities.org. God bless you.